Welcome to Unconventional Playbook. This is Lionel Jones. Please like and subscribe to the page. We just hit a milestone. We're over 130 subscribers. Thank you for the love. Thank you for reaching out with some of your comments. This station is just growing, so please hit those like buttons. Hit those subscribe buttons. I really appreciate it. Now, I hope the Minnesota Timberwolves don't regret their lack of showing up last night. That was a debacle. No excuses. I'm not letting them off the hook. And I know people are going to say, well, they're still up in the series. They're up 2-1. Don't panic. Nobody's panicking here. Nobody's panicking. And please don't let my message get lost in being a fair weather fan or not being on the bandwagon, because I'm a big Minnesota Timberwolves fan, but I will hold them accountable. Think about this. You're up 2-0 to the world champs, and you come back home. Your city is excited for you. The place is packed. Everybody wearing their white T-shirts. Everybody howling. You walk into the arena with all of that, knowing the magnitude of this game, and you lay an egg. How do you do that? And this was not about missed shots. This was not about defense. This was not about not taking care of the ball. It was a lack of energy and a sense of urgency. See, I said last week on my podcast, I didn't like that the Minnesota Timberwolves had almost a week off in between Game 2 and Game 3. Number one, the coaches in this league are too good, especially ones and staffs that have rings. You give them a lot of days, they're going to find out how to beat you. That's number one. But that didn't have anything to do with last night. The Denver Nuggets didn't find out anything last night. That's what people are going to tell you. But I'm a coach. I watch basketball. There was nothing that the Denver Nuggets did in terms of making major adjustments that gave the Timberwolves problems. Let me break it down for you on Unconventional Playbook. See, when the Timberwolves beat the Phoenix Suns, they knew that they were facing the Denver Nuggets, the world champs, Mike Malone. Their coach had just gotten hurt on the sidelines, had to have surgery for a patella tendon. They didn't know whether or not they were going to have him. What sort of preparation do you think went into going to Denver? What sort of mindset do you think the Timberwolves had going into that series in Denver? You could even throw in the altitude in there. They had to get prepared for that. That was a focused team that had a sense of urgency in their mindset. And when you have that, there's no surprise you're going to go up 2-0. So when you have a team that's focused, those are the results that you get, the results that we had in Denver. Fast forward to this past week. What do you think the preparation was there for the Minnesota Timberwolves? You got the national media giving them a lot of love for probably the first time in forever, probably since the Kevin Garnett days. Oh, that defense was fantastic. Oh, Anthony Edwards is the next Michael Jordan. Oh, the Denver Nuggets are going to get swept. Can you imagine what that does to a person? What's human nature in that sense? Human nature is, I'm going to start loving myself. I'm not going to prep as hard because people are telling me the series is over. But you heard it here. I told you it wasn't over. I told you the Denver Nuggets had an opportunity to go into the Target Center and take that game. And they did. So it's only natural for the Minnesota Timberwolves to not have a sense of urgency. See, you've got to prepare for that. The one thing I like about LeBron James, and I'm not the biggest LeBron James guy, but the one thing that I like about LeBron James is during the playoffs, what did he do? For years, people made a big deal about it. He used to turn his phone off, not read social media. You think the Minnesota Timberwolves did that? All I saw this week was interviews with Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert and his baby, and it's only natural for you to let down. And you're playing the world champs. So what you saw last night during that game is a byproduct of taking your foot off the pedal. Because to me, it wasn't necessarily about a lack of execution. It was just a mindset, and they weren't there to compete from the jump. They were just going through the motions, thinking that the Denver Nuggets were just going to back down. And you saw the results of that, Minnesota Timberwolves. I hope you don't regret that game, because now the pressure has swung from Denver to solely the Minnesota Timberwolves on Sunday, all because you decided not to show up for a game. If you look at the box scores, Jaden McDaniels, 10 points, Rudy Gobert, 6, Karl Anthony Towns, 14, Michael Conley, 10, Anthony Edwards, 19. Now, I honestly don't have a whole lot of problem with those raw numbers. Sometimes you're going to have it, sometimes you're not. But I said this on a previous episode of the UP Unconventional Playbook. I said Anthony Edwards has to show a sense of urgency. He's got to be a killer. People are comparing him to Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. Baby Jordan is what they called him. And I don't mind those comparisons, but here's what I'm going to tell you. Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, they were killers. I want you to think back, those of you that are NBA fans that are old enough to remember some of those games, when did you ever see a game in the playoffs with everything on the line, especially a sense of urgency game, where Michael Jordan just tried to let the game come to him? Or Kobe Bryant just trying to let the game come to him? Give me a game. I'll wait. If you know of a game, put it in the comments. I'll reply back to you. I would love to know. I can't remember. I'm 51 years old. So maybe I can't remember that far back, but I don't ever remember a game where Michael Jordan, who you're comparing Ant to, took his foot off the pedal and just let the game come to him. See, you got to be a killer in the playoff games. If you need to go for 40, then go for 40. But you can't go for 40 on 15 shot attempts. Excuse me. Yes, 15 shot attempts. 15. In a game where you're up 2-0. You're in front of your home fans. They had a whiteout last night. Target Center was packed. What a buzzkill. See, I don't mind. Actually, I do mind. But I know in basketball, you're going to win or lose games. Bro, it's going to happen. You're going to win or lose games. But like most Minnesota teams in the past, when they let you down, they've got to do it 1,000 miles per hour. Like, this just couldn't be a loss. They had to not show up in that great environment last night. Lose that game by single digits. Lose that game by 10. But there were moments in that game you were almost down 30 on your home floor. No altitude, no Denver Nuggets fans, nothing. You're the number one defensive team in the league. That didn't even look like you last night. Rudy Gobert just got Defensive Player of the Year. Jokic did whatever he wanted last night. How do you not show up for that? You got these coaches and these players making millions of dollars. It is your job to prepare. It's easy to sit here and play armchair critic. But again, I coach the game. I know the game. I've been in situations like this as a coach. And I'm telling you, you have to do some mental preparation before these games. You can't allow your players to read the social media and read the newspaper. All I saw was how great the Minnesota Timberwolves were. Defense, I've never seen anything like that before. Nothing but interviews from players. They've got to stay focused. Now they put themselves in a situation where they must win on Sunday. They must win it. It's paramount. They've got to win it. And the pressure is solely on the Minnesota Timberwolves. They put that pressure on themselves, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Man, you got to show up for these games. That's where I was just disappointed. For those Minnesota fans that follow the Minnesota Vikings, remember when we made it to the NFC Championship game and we played the Philadelphia Eagles and they just shelled us? Man, when Minnesota teams disappoint, they do it 1,000 miles per hour. They got to put a little stank on it. They can't just compete and lose by 6 to 10 points and at least give the fans something to cheer about. They got to do it 1,000 miles per hour. Shame on the Minnesota Timberwolves last night. And I'm not jumping off the bandwagon, and those of you that put in the comments that I am, you're flat out wrong. I'm just saying there is no excuse to not show up. You can't control whether or not the ball goes into the hoop for you. If that's the case, every team would be undefeated. If you could control that aspect of the game, whether you make or miss shots, everybody would choose to make shots. Your team would be undefeated. So you're not in control of that, but what you are in control of is your mindset and your energy and your sense of urgency when you come into a basketball game of that magnitude. And those Minnesota Timberwolves did not show up. They didn't have the mindset. And I heard some of the comments from Anthony Edwards last night when he was pumping his team up. And Anthony Edwards is a fantastic leader. I get it. You got to be optimistic on the sideline. You don't want your guys hanging their heads. But he says, man, it's just one game. It's just a series. It's just a series. But see, the bad thing about that mindset is you're opening a door. And I thought Anthony Edwards said he wanted to kill everything in front of him. Well, I don't know if you ever watched those horror movies. Freddy Krueger, Jason, Michael Myers, Halloween. But when you don't put them down, what happens? They come back. And that's why there's 1,000 Friday the 13th. Tons of Halloweens. A lot of Nightmare on Elm Streets. If you're a killer, you put them down. You don't leave them with any life. And that's what the Minnesota Timberwolves did last night. They gave them life. And now, you better hope that their blood doesn't keep pumping. Because what you're going to have to do, if you let down again, is go back to Denver tied 2-2 in that altitude and those fans. When you thought the series was over, when you were reading your press clippings and you thought the series was over, you're looking up and you may be tied 2-2. So I saw a few headlines on ESPN today, and they asked, is this a new series? Of course it is. Of course it is. Timberwolves, let them back in because of no sense of urgency. I hope you change that. I hope you don't look back during the series and regret this game when you could have had them down 3-0 and you let them back in. I hope you don't regret it. I'll be watching on Sunday. I'll have my Timberwolves paraphernalia. I'll be rooting for my guys, but I'm not going to let you off the hook. Not on Unconventional Playbook. Not on the UP. Please like and hit the subscribe button if you like the content. You know we're going to keep it real here. We're going to keep it real all the time on the UP. So UP Nation, hit those like buttons, hit those subscribe buttons. I really appreciate the love and support. We're growing so fast. We're growing so fast. We've got people watching from all over the world right now. So I really, really appreciate it. Hit that like and subscribe button. This has been Unconventional Playbook.